Let's get corrupted. What up, YouTube? It's your boy Joe with Meteoric Serpents coming back at you for another episode of the Colubrid Corruption Podcast. Guys, as always, if you are enjoying this, make sure you hit a like on today's podcast. Obviously, I really appreciate that. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I do see that a lot of the people watching are not subscribed. So if you're just lurking out there, hit that subscribe button. Really means the world to me. And hit the notification bell so you know every single time we go live. That's every Sunday at 7:30. In store for you guys today, we're going a little bit off the wall of the typical Colubrid corruption because we're bringing on someone I consider to be a very cool guest. It's Paul McIntyre at For Real 3D and Design and For Real Reptiles. Guys, this is going to be an awesome episode. Paul's a very diverse keeper. I wrote it on my Instagram post, but like he's an OG in this game and he has a lot of connections with some of the, big time reptile breeders of, people's names you hear of when you think of like, oh, the big dogs in the game. Like Paul knows all of them. He's been around for a super long time. He has a super interesting collection. And overall, like I just very much respect him as a keeper. And, glad to say that me and him have become friends over the last year, which is awesome. I've ended some shows together, so it's been awesome. As usual, guys, all my social media is down here below. Follow me on Instagram. Wait, which hand? Okay. Follow me on Instagram if you want to stay updated on pretty much everything. I share my collection. I share reminders about this show. I tell you guys every week when it's going down. Obviously, hit that subscribe on YouTube. Morph Market, I do have some animals left available. Facebook is just kind of all my Instagram stuff goes there. Otherwise, not an official sponsor, but I endorse the product. If you are looking to diversify your diet, and you typically feed rodents, you should check out Blake's Exotic Feeders on Instagram. I get my quail from him. As I say every week, my rat snakes love quail. And in my opinion, I feel like their feeding response is even stronger when it comes to quail as opposed to a rodent diet. So that's pretty cool. And it's a little bit leaner, a little bit healthier. Overall, I think people should move towards diversifying their diet because you don't want to eat the same thing every day, do you? Neither do these snakes probably, and it's healthier. So that's great. Last but not least, guys, as I have mentioned on the last few episodes, I did launch the Meteoric Serpents Patreon. That is the first link in the description below. If you're looking to support me and also grow an awesome community, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Other than that, you are just supporting me, helping me grow this channel and make this podcast bigger and better so that I can bring more content to you guys as well as other YouTube stuff. And I really want to do that. And it's a way of me being able to give back and say thanks to the people who support me. So go check that out. Before we bring out Paul, let's see quickly who's in the chat tonight. Brian Heath and Hatchery, thanks for being here. Eric's More Factory, what's up? Thanks for being here. JNS Exotics, thanks for being here. Big Dog, Villarino Reptiles, thanks for being here. Bosa Reptiles, Bosa, what's up? JQ, what's going on? Adam, hope you're doing well. Paul's double dipping in the chat. Adam, again, picked up 2 San Diego Gophers yesterday at a local show. Hell yeah. San Diego Gophers are pretty awesome. Last but not least, Manfredi, Morph Valley Reptiles. Thanks for being here. All right, guys, without further ado, let's bring out the guest for this week. Paul, what's up, man?
What is up, everybody? How's everybody going? Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Excited to have you here. Like I said, like I said, I kind of wanted to go off the wall this week, and I've been wanting to bring you on. I just we were trying to figure out timing, and things happened to work out this week a little last minute. So I appreciate you being here. But yeah, definitely taking a different road on this because I would say, seeing your collection now, you're starting to get Colubrid corrupted. But
I think it's kind of something we've always wanted to do, just to kind of be diverse. And we just waited. I think I waited a little longer than I probably should have. I probably should have done this maybe 6, 8 months ago. But you got to start somewhere, and that's why we figure we started off with the bulls. Actually, we got the Okatee corn first. Hey, I said that right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got her first from Lee Abbott. So I'm waiting on a male. It's funny. Everybody always has males left at the end of the year. He had like 7 females.
Oh, okay.
So we got the female first, which is nice, and she's growing really nice. So
nice.
We'll pick up a male from him soon, and something from another bloodline.
The people are saying they cannot hear you very well. We were trying to figure it out beforehand, and I thought this was the best setting.
Let me check. Let me switch it again.
Okay.
And see if it doesn't, let me run real quick. You can put me backstage. Is this any better?
No problem.
Is this any better?
It's a little bit better. Chat, let me know what you think. Paul, just talk a little bit.
Hey, let me know what you guys think. What's going on, everybody? If this isn't good, all right, Frank can hear me.
Thanks, Dad.
Oh, that's your dad? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Eric said not yet. What do you mean, Eric?
All right, you wanna try to run and grab the mic?
Yeah, just throw me backstage for a minute.
I gotcha. Right. Yeah, no problem. Sorry about that, guys. We wanted to figure it out beforehand. I thought it might sound all right. I had both AirPods in, but I can understand why it may have not came across well on other people's stuff. But yeah, guys, we're really gonna get into it, kind of dive deep into Paul's kind of origin story. I'm excited to hear that a little bit. Especially being here in Florida and then all the venomous keeping and whatnot. It's going to be a cool episode. Man, Freddie, they're doing very well. The baby just shed, so I'm going to offer it another meal this week. They go through these long ass shed cycles. I know I talked about it with Justin Smith. Because he has quite a few rhinos, and they go through a super long shed cycle. Like it literally takes about 2 weeks from, and you kind of just see them start to cloudy up, and and they just won't eat. Both of mine, they did that during their shed cycle. Just no food, no nothing. Then when the older girl shed out, she took a meal right away, which is awesome. And then the baby just shed out last night. I believe I checked that this morning, or she shed last night, whatever it was. So I will be offering her a meal. Yeah, they completely turn off and they become aquatic. They're basically semi-aquatic snakes. It's kind of funny. They'll just lay in their water bowl or whatever. They like to get all moist. And, both my snakes had a really, really nice shed, which I was very happy about. Obviously, I'm sure if they have a bad shed cycle, they could lose the horn. I'm sure. So yeah. But yeah, they're both doing well. The baby, is a little feisty one, kicking. Always going to bite me when I'm holding him. So it's fun. Give me a thumbs up when you're good, Paul. All right, guys. You're right. I probably do need more. I will have more. Okay. I think he's back. We good?
Is this better? Actually,
I think it.
Aiden's microphone here.
Okay.
Is that better?
Did you? Yeah, I think so.
I went into the settings and changed it, so.
Okay. Next show I plan on vending probably won't be for a bit. I'm like out of stuff. I only have a few snakes left for sale. So yeah. All right, guys, but let's get into it. Let's hear, some from Paul. Paul, like, first off, however long or short you want to go, can you kind of give your background into how you got into reptiles in general, where it all kind of began for you, and then how that led to where you are today.
So I mean, just like everybody else, I've done the same thing. I mean, as a little kid catching snakes and frogs and your basic stuff. I got in heavily to breeding fish, and as that progressed, um, it got to be too much. Like fish are
a lot. Fish are a lot.
Yeah, it was way worse than I thought it was going to be. And listen, when I went, it was like 1 tank, 8 tanks in a matter of a week. And even my parents were cool with it because I was staying with them, and they were like, "Yeah, we really like the tank." And I was like, "Well, I want to add a few more." And they were like, "Okay, go ahead." And they were like, "Whoa, 8?" And then before you know it, you've got a million baby fish, and you've got more tanks everywhere. And so when I kind of got out of that, I wanted to be able to do something, and I just couldn't really figure out what. And then I met my wife, and we got married, and I got my first ball python. And man, this ball python was rough. It was covered in ticks. It was horrible. It was definitely, obviously imported. And then, my wife was deathly afraid of snakes from Arizona, lots of rattlesnakes, always everywhere. So she didn't really like them. We ended up getting a boa constrictor, and she fell in love. And from that point on, it just kind of spiraled and in and out and different stuff. And I remember going to my first reptile show with a good friend of mine and seeing all the different stuff and thinking, man, I did this with fish. What would be the difference? How hard would it be to, what would it be? So that's where it kind of started. And myself and a good friend got into bearded dragons, and we had a ton of bearded dragons that we were just wholesaling to, because where in Buffalo, New York, there's one buffalo show that's generally, I think, twice a year. There used to be a show once a year in Syracuse. You have White Plains. And then we went to Pittsburgh a few times. At that time, there were 2 shows there. And It's cool because I actually just saw the promoter a few shows ago, and I think it was in Orlando, and talked with her. I had a really good friend that unfortunately passed away a few years ago, and I used to go with Stefan to these shows all the time. And she was like, "Man, I remember you and your wife and your kids." She's like, "That's incredible. That it was unfortunate that he passed young, and but it was kind of like full circle. Like, here I am vending a show, and that was like one of the first reptile shows that I ever vended was that Pittsburgh show. So
right,
and here we are today. Venomous has been something I have always been interested in. I tell everybody this story. The very first venomous snake I ever saw, I was in elementary school. It was in an encyclopedia. It was a black-headed bushmaster sitting in the root of a tree. And I told my teacher, I'm going to get one of those. And she laughed at me and said, "You will never have one." Mrs. Clark, I will 100% have one. That was like my favorite teacher. So I will never forget that moment. And I've had the pleasure of seeing some, and they are just unbelievable. So
right.
Little bit hot, not exactly something you would want to take a bite from. So
yeah,
it's a big commitment.
Right. And just going back to when you actually got into it and all the breeding and stuff, when was that, like around year wise?
So in 2006, I want to say that's pastel ball pythons were $1,000. I bought myself and my buddy bought a pastel male. We spent about, I think we got a deal on it. It was listed at $1,250. We got it for like $1,000. We put him to 2 females, because that's all we had at the time. Just 2 normal females. One took, one didn't. And that male bred for us at like 5 months old, and he was 3 or 4. Yeah, he was 300 or 400 grams, and he was a champ. Like, we put him in, and he was right on that female, and she produced a clutch of 8. We got 4 normals and 4 pastels, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. We at one point had, I think, 50 female breeders, and it just, between my work schedule and I was playing paintball and coaching and my kids' sports, it was just too much. So we kind of took a huge step back, which we probably shouldn't have done. If I would have just sat on everything for a while, it would have been better off. But just too much going on. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got four kids that were all in football, 2 daughters cheerleading, 2 sons playing football, and each one of them at 4 different levels. So every week it was practice Monday through Thursday, games on Saturday, baseball, softball, all that stuff adds up, and there's just too much work.
Yeah, I get you. What's funny, how I look at it, most people don't think of like 2006 as that long ago, but when we look at the scope of the reptile hobby and how much it's grown since then, like it's crazy to think like 2006 was kind of like OG days, what I'd consider it. I remember I was a little kid going into stores and I don't remember the animals back then. And then, I always say in 2011 is when I got my first animal when I was, just past 10 years old. So, it's crazy. You've been in this for a really long time and you've seen a lot of stuff in the hobby overall.
Yeah. Albino ball pythons when I got in were 9,500. And hides, I think, were still 25,000 or 45,000 a pair or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So, but I do. Stefan, the gentleman I was talking about before, he traded his whole group of Ackie monitors at that time. He had, I think, 8 pairs or 6 pairs or something for 10 het albino ball pythons and one albino male. And none of those females proved out.
Oh man.
He got the first year they bred, he got nine clutches out of 10 snakes and not one albino. Yeah, it was horrible. And I mean, as upset as he was about it, his response at that time was, it doesn't matter because he sold half of the females. They were like $500 a piece at that time. Everybody wanted normal females, so normal females were a hot commodity. So he held back a whole bunch of the hets in the first year that he produced albinos. I think he said he produced some ungodly number like 75 or 100. To me, an ungodly number. 75 or 100 albinos is insane. So, I mean, for him, it worked out in the long run, but it did kind of suck to hear, from him that all those clutches were hatching out and nothing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Now, just because we've talked so much, so, obviously you came down to Florida from New York, and there was also, if I'm saying this correctly, kind of a transition in the collection, because I know you used to keep some other snakes, like you had retics, you had some other larger things. So kind of talk about that transition, where that was in the midst of everything.
So when we decided to move, I think we only had a couple animals at the time. So we ended up selling all that stuff because we knew it was going to be a big move. We didn't want to come down here with a ton of stuff. We were staying with somebody that was definitely afraid of snakes, and it was just too much. So when we came down here, got on our feet, got into where we wanted to be at, we ended up with a couple ball pythons and I think a corn snake or king snake. And we kind of just stayed on the fringe of everything. And then I was at Wild Things in Gainesville, and they had a retic and a berm. And I'm like, I thought these were illegal down here. And Matt was like, no, you can get a permit. So Matt from Wild Things, the owner, actually helped me through the permitting phase to get my permit and get me all set up. And we purchased a pair of retics, adults from Stephen Tillis, and we produced our first clutch that year. And, in love that I know people probably look at this bad. I don't get attached to pets. That's just my personality. There's very few things that I get really attached to. And I was really attached to those snakes. They were so amazing to work with. And I know a lot of people throw shade at them. They're too big. People should, you know what? If you respect the animals, whether you keep Venomous, whether you keep a German Shepherd, whether you keep a cow, you still have to respect every single animal you have. There's a level of commitment to it. So when Florida started talking about that, my FWC officer was actually pretty cool, and he stopped by and said, hey, this is what I want you to do. Can you move the snakes out of that room and put them here in the front of the house? I want you to get a sign-up sheet, open up, every Sunday for 2 hours. If somebody comes, just put their name on there. He's like, he tried to walk me through this to to help me because he knew how much I love the animals, and that was awesome. And then a week later, he came and he was like, "It ain't gonna work." He's like, "You have to have a brick and mortar. It's got to be commercial. It can't be your house." So at that point, we just decided, if we wait for that rule to go into play, then anybody outside of the state of Florida is going to be like, "I'll give you $25 for that snake," because we know that if you wait 90 days, you're gonna have to surrender it. So we found a couple people that took all of our animals, and we ended up just kind of moving out of that project. We ended up with a bunch of ball pythons. Some went to Chance up in Gainesville. I forget the name of the store that they're at now, but there was a few of them that went up there for display. And I think it was the right thing to do at that time. And listen, I produced 30 babies that first year, and we made decent money. But on the opposite side of that, I turned down sales because I didn't trust people. We were really particular on where they went. We wanted to know, what people were going to do with them. How long were they going to keep them? Did they understand how big they got? And so on. And I think that's just something that we all have to do. And it comes back full circle to Venomous. When people say, "Hey, are you going to produce Venomous?" I would love to produce something, but it's not something I'm really looking for. I keep that stuff as my own passionate personal love thing. I hate saying that, but it's my love. That's what I enjoy. So if I produce babies, sure, I may have friends that want them, but I would never sell to the public.
Yeah. No, and what you said about the retic should resonate hopefully with a lot of people, because I feel like there are definitely retics that are overbred and sold to unknowing people, not knowing what kind of size they can get to. So it's extremely important to, especially with an animal like that, like you have to be able to vet people, know they could actually handle that kind of animal. But yeah, now
I went to just a quick story. I went to we used to have a big they're still there. There's a big pet store in New York, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, I want a snake, but I don't want that ball python thing. I want something that gets a little bigger." And I said, "Okay, get a boa. They're a little bit more expensive, but hey, at the end of the day, they grow slower. They don't get as big as a berm or a retic. And just stick to something that's manageable. Trust me, this is what you want to do." Okay, he goes to this pet store. They told him, "Oh no, you don't want that. You want a berm. It'll be 20 years before it's 10 feet long." That snake was 13 feet long in 9 months, and you couldn't handle it. It was so vicious. And I told him, I said, "This is the disgusting part, is people just don't know. Pet stores just looking to make a sale, and that's unfortunate." Yeah,
no, it does suck. Now I obviously want to get into, because obviously with the Venomous here in Florida, it's not something that's taken lightly, especially with FWC. You are able to keep your animals legally.
Yep.
Can you kind of walk through the process that Florida has currently, or what you went through to be able to keep these snakes legally and appropriately the way you do?
Okay, so I'm going to give a quick shout out to Justin Smith and Billy. They did the Herps magazine, and I actually wrote an article. I think it was the second or third magazine. I bought a hard copy, which was the title was Journey to 1,000 Hours. And I pretty much went through what I went through to get to that point. And it's simple. The state of Florida says, "Hey, you have to have 1,000 hours of hands-on time in order to keep these animals." So you have two options. You can do 1,000 hours, apply for the permit, have your room set up, which has to be, your door has to be airtight. Not airtight, but you can't have any spaces. So I had to put like a piece of wood across the front. When it closes, it seals, so nothing can get out. You have to screen with metal screen and all your vents. Some inspectors I hear are requiring people to put wire mesh on the insides of their windows. That's a fire hazard. It's an egress issue. So that you could fight that if you really wanted to. My inspector is awesome. She came in and told me, "Just keep the windows locked and don't open them." So the windows are locked. There's cages in front of them. We're not opening those windows. There's no reason to. So you get that hands-on experience. I did mine at the Reptile Preservation Institute in Melrose, Florida. Shout out to Cody and Pia. It's a fantastic facility. It's a great place to go visit. There's over 50 species and 300 venomous snakes and crocodilians. It's a good time. So I cleaned poop for 3 years. I mean, for lack of a better term, the first couple months obviously was very little hands-on stuff. It was me learning their procedures and protocols, and then from there it was jump right in and move mambas and taipans and big bothrops and stuff like that, annuliferous snouted cobras. I got to work with some amazing animals, but as I said, 1,000 hours with each species includes Viperidae, Elapidae, Colubridae, Helodermidae. So you have 4,000 hours that you have to do. Now, where I was at, there was no colubrids, and there was only 2 beaded lizards and a Gila monster. So I can keep a taipan, I can keep a king cobra, I can keep any bothrops, some of the most dangerous animals in the world, but I can't have a Gila monster or a boiga. Makes no sense. But that's how the rules
so they classify the boiga under the Colubridae. Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So boiga are classified under Colubridae, but false water cobras and hognose snakes are not.
Interesting.
So
you can legally keep. So you can keep false water cobras here, no problem.
Yeah, we have one. But I mean, there's people that have them. They don't require any. You could sell them at shows. They don't require anything. It's weird the way that it's like things were put on lists that didn't matter, like the 2 species of anaconda that nobody's ever seen that were on the conditional species list. They've never ever been imported. Like, why would you put those on there? But I guess it's just you read something and they put it there. So, but now I'm inspected every year. There's $100 fee, which I think is minute. But the inspection is the big thing. It's working with your officer, and I hear a lot of people that, I get it. They have a job to do. And unfortunately, if I push back on some of the things that I think are wrong, it's not going to help me at all. They're just going to, they're going to bury me. So it's easier just to get along. There's all kinds of things that they want to put in place that sometimes the rules don't. Like there's a lot of gray areas, and I'm sure if you're in Florida, you know it. So,
yeah. With that, do you have to have so I know the door is locked, and then do the individual cages, they have to have the locks as well?
So this is one of the things that's really up to the inspector's purview. At Cody's, rooms were locked. And we had ways of securing the doors, whether it was with a wedge or some sort of clamp or whatever was in there. The inspectors were good with that. They were good with the 10-gallon tanks had the sliding lids, and then there's right in the front. They were good with us just dropping a nail in there so that door couldn't open.
Yeah.
My inspector was here. We discussed some of the cages that have sliding glass. I usually use a plastic wedge that you get from Lowe's or Home Depot. That secures the door. They're not going to open. And she said that she much preferred locks, which I have no problem with. It's going to be, some of this stuff is going to be up to the inspector's purview. She was cool with that. I have a rack that I have a couple animals in that I had to I put a bracket on the bottom. And then I put a piece of U-channel in, and then it's got a slot in the top that's got an eye hook or an eye screw, and you put a lock on that. So you take the lock off and you pull that out, and then you can open all the boxes up. It's just it's more secure, and I get it, and I have no problem with that. We did the same thing at Cody's. That was one of the things that I enjoyed the most was being able to work someplace that we did this. Now I can add on to that, or I can change it and make it my own and do my own thing with it.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I'm sure part of your learning process, and definitely a big part of it with these animals, is actually understanding how they move, how they function, their kind of behaviors and you can kind of read them because they're very smart animals. And obviously one wrong move, you fuck up, you're fucked.
Yes.
But can you kind of talk about that? Just like being able to like pick up on these behaviors, like I don't know if you want to give maybe examples, but like,
Okay,
I'm
so the best way that I can put it is the first day that I was there, Cody has a rat barn, and my assumption is that I was going to work rats, and till they got to know me and we all kind of meshed, and nope, right to mambas. And I watched him work all these adolescent, I think they were probably 9 months to a year and a half old, work these mambas and effortlessly, no issues, no gaping in the mouth, none of the stuff you see on YouTube or on TV where they're
Right.
standing up and they're running, they're chasing things around. None of that. It was 2 hooks out of the tank into a garbage can or into a catch can, lid on, lock. Okay, Paul, clean the water dish, take the poop out, put a new piece of paper in. Because what Cody does is he'll put bedding down and then a piece of like unprinted newspaper folded in half on top of the bedding, and then a hide box. And what that does is it gives them different layers of, keeps the humidity up, but it gives them another layer to hide if they want to dip quick and they can't get to the hide box. So that was what I did. He'd pull the snake out, put the snake back. And he always prefaced it by saying, wow, this is pretty amazing. These guys aren't acting up, but understand that this black mamba can do black mamba things, meaning that if they really want to get a piece, they're going to get a piece. They're fast, they're agile, they're smart. Western greens, the same thing. Fast, agile, smart. I pulled a 6-month-old out. It seemed like it levitated to a big grapevine branch that was on top of the rack. It went up into that branch, went down into the next rack, and fell onto the floor and went underneath the rack. Unbeknownst to me, as I looked, the bedroom door was shut. As I looked behind the rack, I could see just the tip of the tail. And I thought, okay, cool. Cody, grab a hook. I'm going to touch its tail. It's going to come and shoot out the front of the rack towards you. You just hook him and we'll put him back. He's like, okay, that's no problem. Well, it was under the rack and turned around, and its head was right near its tail, and I couldn't see it. I touched that tail, and that snake shot straight across my feet, and I almost hit the ceiling. And Cody just looked at me and said, did it bite you? And I said, God, I don't know. I hope not, because it's so small you would never feel it. And it didn't, but it was one of those oh shit moments, like that really just happened. Like this is legitimately a very fast animal that, and knock on wood, and all the time I was there, other than I think we have a video that Aiden was filming and I had an Ethiopian cobra shoot out of the cage at me, which was epic. Okay. And listen, I don't care what anybody says. I posted that video and I got flamed for it on Facebook in one of the stupid Venomous groups that I left. And I tell everybody the same thing. If you can only post the things that you do good at and not the things that you do bad at, don't post. It's not worth it. You need to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I was an inexperienced keeper. I had I think it was a Philippines cobra get out and go up into the curtain, and I had to yell for help. I'm new at this. This is, I'm not going to take any chances. I'm not going to reach out and grab the snake like some of these other chuckleheads will do. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to ask the person teaching me for help. And he's going to explain to me, hey, sometimes these animals do X, Y, and Z. And that's really, man, I could go in there right now and tell you exactly what every animal's demeanor is like. And honestly, from all that time of working those animals, they know, hey, this guy's opening up my cage. Other than like, there are certain species that are never going to calm down. Both Rops are one of them. When you open that cage up, the first thing they're doing is shooting out 6 feet with their mouth open because they think they're being fed. All they can see is a bunch of heat and, oh my God, I'm eating. And they come right out like a freight train. And then when they figure out there's no food, then it's time to run. And they run, and you got to pull the snake out. And I learned how to use 2 hooks. And some people say that's ridiculous. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me to use 1 hook. If I have 2 hooks, I'm way more comfortable. So, but I learned that way. So it'd be the same if I learned with one hook, I would probably say, hey, that's really uncomfortable. I've never done that before. But
Right.
all of these animals are different, every single
Yep.
one of them. And you can have 5 forest cobras, and 5 of them are going to be the exact opposite of each other. They're never going to be the same. It's like anything else.
Yep.
It's
And
so
that
much
was leading
fun.
me. Yeah, that was leading me into my next point. I was going to say, I'm sure with the way their behavior is, you begin to learn and very much mentally notate how each individual animal is going to react every time that cage is opened, right?
Yep. Yeah, you'll
Yeah.
see that. And there were plenty of times where I would pull a cage, I would open up a door, and that animal would, the Cameroon forest cobra, normally real placid. I'd open that cage up, and he'd hit his head on the top and start hissing and shooting all over. And I would just shut the cage and lock it and tell Cody, I'll try it again at the end, or you're going to have to grab him tomorrow.
Okay.
He's just not having it today. Same thing with the
Yeah.
Mambas. The first time I watched Cody move one of the big Western green females out, it was probably an hour and a half of slide the cage door this way. Nope. It went back to the other side. Slide the cage door that way. Nope. It went back to, and just back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
And he kept telling me, he's like, this is just the way that it is. If you force that animal out of there, it's not going to chase you. It's going to bite you. There's no chase. They're like a rocket ship. So when you watch that stuff, okay, I know that if I've got to clean those, it's just going to be time consuming. It's just going to take time. And that was probably the best part of being there, was when we went to all the new Doug Bar cages with the shift boxes in them. And the first time those snakes saw those shift boxes and we opened up those doors, every snake picked the box and went into them. The blacks, the greens, Jamesons, Westerns, Easterns, and both pairs of blacks. Everybody picked the shift box and went in. And it was like, oh my God, this is going to make this this is a game changer. This is a 2-hour cage cleaning to a 2-minute. Minus we had Gaboon Vipers in with the Westerns. So it was a Cohab cage. They were super cool. And for those that don't think that a ground dwelling snake will climb, those cages were 5 foot tall. And there's photos somewhere of a 2-foot Gaboon Viper hanging out of the shift box that's 5 foot up in the air. Yeah, it was super cool.
Oh, wow.
So super cool to see.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Now that we kind of got that preface of Venomous over, can we kind of go into some of the species you actually keep? And forgive my ignorance, because I'm definitely not versed on venomous species and common or even scientific names at all. So can you talk about at least a few of your favorites one by one?
Yeah. So
that you're keeping? We
have Bush Viper. I believe it's a male. He's probably 2. I think he's about 2. Super, super cool. Squamangera. Theris Squamangera. I think it's somebody can correct me. I don't know. He's really neat. Probably one of my, if you were going to go by like a common species, probably one of my favorites. They're easy to get. They're easy to care for. They're usually pretty hardy as babies. They have live birth, so that's kind of neat. They don't get overly big, so they're easy to care for. The downside is I'm pretty much 99% sure there's no antivenom for them. So if you take a bite, you're gonna ride the lightning. So that's just the way that it is. So then we have a puff adder, a male puff adder. Obviously another African species. Super cool to watch. They have a cool posture. They don't stand up like a rattlesnake. They kind of tilt their head downward. They have a real weird strike. The one that we have has gone from being pretty placid to kind of a dick. Doesn't like the hook, doesn't like to be put on a hook, flies out of the cage at you. We're going to move him out of the rack this week and put him into a front opening cage, which I hope kind of put a couple hides in and maybe it'll calm him down a little bit. He'll see us all the time. I think now he just doesn't see anybody. So when you open the box, it's kind of like panic mode.
Okay.
And then we have a snouted cobra, which is Annulifera, Naja annulifera. One of the larger species of cobras, they'll get 7 to 8 feet. They're big, they're derpy. It's like I tell people it's like the golden retriever of cobras. Like they'll bite themselves, they'll bite a hook, they'll bite the cage, they'll bite the bowl. They'll definitely bite you. They're extremely toxic, but they're very, very mild mannered and pretty easy to handle unless there's food around. And then they have that dry. I compare it to a dry mark on food response. Like if you have food, it's game on. You know, they're all about it. So you got to be real careful when you're tossing food in the cage because as soon as they see it, it's almost like a visual cue for them. As soon as they see it, if you have them on a hook or a pair of tongs, that snake, if you're just tossing it in the box, it's going to come straight out at you. So you got to be real careful. And then we have a pair of South American rattlesnakes, and I think I sent you some pictures of those. We have a
my bad, totally forgot.
We have a fully striped. I think it's the male, and then the female's partially striped. The female's got so much better color, but
shoot, it's not letting me show it on the computer.
So, but it's Dorissus culminensis. Again, super super cool. All my snakes come from Ryan Gradney. Ryan Gradney Reptiles. I generally try to stick to people that I really trust. You know, just because. But that's all we have right now.
Okay.
We're gonna. I don't know what the plan is. We had a big 8-foot Egyptian cobra. Our buddy Stone from Stone's World actually had our snakes for probably about 4 months. He babysat everybody, and when we went down to pick him up, I gave him that cobra because he really loved him, and I figured that was fair for him, you know, feeding and housing and caring for all these guys. So, I mean, I thought it was really cool. He loves that snake, so I'm super stoked that he's got something that he really likes. So
awesome.
And that snake scared the hell out of Anna.
Okay.
Even though it was that's how we ended up getting it. It was at a local zoo, and they were like, it doesn't do cobra things. I think I saw that snake hood up once in a few months. So and it was afraid of live rodents. Yeah, petrified. So
the dangerous snake afraid of the rodent.
Yeah, and that snake is the eighth most venomous snake in the world. So extremely toxic. So,
yeah,
but so much fun. I don't think people realize just what goes into what we do. People outside of the industry, you know, I just don't think they get it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then what about some species on your kind of wish list? Because I know you obviously had that period of, you know, they were out of the house. It was because of the move, right?
Yeah,
because you were moving and you had to set up the room properly and all that. Yeah.
So all of our permits here in Florida, and I did not know this, are site specific. So if you have a Class 3 permit and you applied for it and got it 9 months after you applied for it, FWC, you decide to move. Now you have to reapply for that permit. Pay the money all over again, no matter how. I had my Venomous permit for 4 months, and things happened that were out of our control, and we had to move. And they were like, "Oh no, you got to pay the $100 again, and you got to get the inspection. And oh, by the way, what are you going to do with your animals?" And I was like, "Well, I'm going to find somebody to take them." Well, we need to see his permit, and we need to see that. And I just ignored him. I took all my animals to Stone. I wrote him out a receipt, handed it to him. I'm like, "I'm not telling you anything. You don't need to know anything." And that's the way they came in and checked when we moved. Okay. You know, when I did my exit, they came in and checked, and then, you know, I had to reapply, and it took 90 on the 87th day, they called me to say, "Hey, we're ready to do your inspection." You know, like, you really couldn't we just moved. I had everything ready for 3 months. Like, you could have just come and then charged me another $100. So
okay, so they had to do the inspection before you actually got the snakes back.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah. That's a big deal.
Okay.
So so
it's like a pre-check of the room, make sure you're good, and then it's like, okay, now you could go get animals.
Yep. And then every inspector is a little bit different. They require you to keep an inventory sheet. They require you to keep bite protocols. All this stuff is in place. You have a Part B, which is your, what if there's an emergency, a hurricane, a tornado? What are you going to do with your animals? Where's your emergency contact? What happens if you take a bite? And it's all that stuff you have to have in place. And honestly, even if those rules weren't there, you should have all that stuff in place, because it's going to be a cluster of people running around and running into each other if you've got a cobra hanging from your fingers and you need to get it and put it back in a cage and keep calm. And, there's a million things that are going to go through your head. So, and honestly, dude, we have it the best here. We've got Venom 1 and Venom 2 and Dr. Ben Abo, who's rock star tox doc. Like,
okay,
I don't ever stress over any of that stuff. He's a phone call away.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So we're lucky here in Florida. They're lucky in Texas too, because they have Dr. Green. So, there's a few guys around the country, Nick Brinkendorf, Dr. Green, Ben Abo. There's some guys out there that are fire. So
okay,
they know their stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. Before we kind of talk about the rest of what you're doing, just sticking with the Venomous, obviously we live in this social media world where, and you kind of alluded to it before, where perhaps Venomous is not shown in the best light or in a sensational matter, where, and we've had these conversations where you feel these people are not being responsible. Like, how does that make you feel, knowing that you keep your standards to like the top of the top, and then there's other people, especially here in Florida of all places, who perhaps don't follow those same protocols? Like, what goes through your head when you see stuff like that?
So for the 3 years that I was doing my Venomous hours, I pounded the no free handling drum and hard, to the point that I attacked people that I didn't even really know. I'll never do it. I don't condone it. I will tell all of these guys the same thing to their face. It's dumb. It's not necessary. However, it's your life. That's your choice. What bothers me the most is a lot of these guys, your Tom Crutchfields, they've set it outward. Us free handling is not going to affect you or the industry in any way, shape, or form. Now, since I've done this and had my hours and I've done all this, nobody's died. Okay. Not here in Florida. Somebody was bitten, not in the United States, but that's neither here nor there. What it could potentially lead to is more legislation, but will it? I don't know. There's tons and tons of videos of these guys doing all this stuff and nothing's happened. So it's not worth the energy and the time to put in. And I'll be honest, I've met some of these guys and they're really not that bad. They're doing something to get views on YouTube, and if that's what they feel they need to do, that's what they feel they need to do. I tell everybody the same thing. A venomous snake is like a loaded gun. If you go on my nightstand right now, there's a 9mm there. If I go and grab that annulifera out of its cage, there's a 50-50 chance it's going to bite me. Yep. If you go in that bedroom and pick that gun up and play Russian roulette and pull the trigger, I guarantee you're going to be dead, because there is one in the chamber. So those animals have every bit of whatever they need to do to protect themselves or feed or do whatever they want. And if somebody's willing to be unsafe and do that, there's really not much we can do about it as a community. We just, what are you going to do? And I spent a lot of time beating that drum, and it really bothers me now. It bothers me that I wasted that much energy on it, and I shouldn't have. And, lessons learned, and, but at the end of the day, to answer the question, I'll never do it. I don't condone it. I will tell these guys a million times over, don't do it. It's not worth it. But you do you. That's all. Yeah. I mean, what else can we do, really?
Right.
Joe, you look really scary right now.
Why is that?
because you
because
have like
the all black background.
Yeah, it's like all black background. You're leaning forward, your black hair.
My bad. I'm
like,
sorry.
No, you look like a mob guy, like sitting in the dark, like ready to pop a cap at somebody.
You know what? This with the darkness, I've been told the full darkness looks better than when the sensor lights come on and off. Because those will trigger. There's one in front of me and there's one to the side here. And those used to just trigger on and off the entire time, every time I would move, and the lighting would just get thrown off. So
yeah, that would be annoying.
Made the decision. Yes. So I decided it's just better to keep all the lights off and the one LED
I like the dark.
on my face. Yeah.
I like the dark. I think it looks kind of cool.
Thanks. All right, cool. Now I wanted to talk about, obviously, the business side of things, because the business side of the reptile industry is something that fascinates me, especially because I went to college for business. So, it's intriguing, and there's people that don't want to talk about it because they feel it's sensitive, and they think because, we're dealing with live animals, there's this ethical dilemma of should we be making this money and be talking about it like, it's a commodity and cash, which in all reality, it is. We buy and we sell animals, and even the people who aren't selling animals, we're all buying animals and supporting those other people. So in a way, it all comes around. But you've done something very interesting within the hobby. One, you're a mainstay at all the reptile shows here in Florida, but two, your commodity actually, well, you do the reptiles, obviously, but For Real 3D, talk about how and when that started and what became of that.
So 3 years ago, it's probably 3.5 years. Probably 3.5 years. We did our first Kissimmee Repticon show. And we had a handful of snakes, but we didn't have a class 3 permit. So we were vending with a good friend. So, he had our animals, and, we weren't sure what we were going to do. So we had our animals with him, and we 3D printed some dinosaurs. And I was like, if we bring these to the show and they're $20 a piece and we sell a few of them, pay for the table. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to us, we were going to sell out. And look at me and Aiden, my son at that time, 16 years old. He was like, are we doing the wrong thing? Why don't we just not do reptiles? Like, let's just do this. It's easier. We don't have to work. I push them into a box and throw them up in a shelf, and I don't have to feed anything. And it was like, so we grew from there. And that point of, okay, we had a couple animals here. Well, you know what? All these 3D prints are selling so much better, and we're getting such a great reaction from it. There's nothing that I love more than seeing a kid smile, because I remember taking my kids to reptile shows and them driving me nuts because they want this, they want that. Let's go this way. Yep. I'm bored. I don't want to do this. So I'm giving them something that now they're preoccupied. They're playing with their bearded dragon 3D print. They're playing with their dragon, their chameleon, their ball python, whatever. And the parents can walk around and look at stuff, and the kids are occupied. They're not nagging anymore. They're not. Listen, I've got 5 kids, man. I remember taking them all to shows where it was like, okay, I didn't see anything because I was too busy chasing somebody around or being, I want to go, I want to leave, I want to go, I want to eat, I'm hungry. So now I felt like I was providing a service to the parents that were there, and it was like, okay, and that stuff just took off. And if you know me, anybody that's there, Emilio, you, Brock, everybody, I always said 6, 8 months, 10 months, people are going to be like, oh God, there's the toy guy, go the other way. And it hasn't been that way.
Yeah.
I can go into my Square account and pull up the number of repeat customers from every single show. There are people that'll come up to the table and say, okay, I got that one, and that one. I need this one. Wow. It's turned into like a cult following. And with that comes competition and more people 3D printing. And that's fine. We go through this in the reptile end. Obviously, everybody has ball pythons. Everybody has crested geckos, leopard geckos, bearded dragons.
Yep.
There's no limit to what we can all do. It's all about branding yourself and building a base of clients and customers that are just going to come back to you.
Yeah.
And I've had other 3D print customers that come up and they're like, hey, did you see there's somebody over there selling the same stuff as you? That's crazy. Your stuff's way better. And they're like, I'll take this one. And it's like, that's cool to hear. But in the same sense, I'm sure in business, they teach you that competition is great. Like we want to have more options, you know? So
right.
That stuff doesn't bother me. There's some things that do bother me. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like people that copy your ideas and then talk shit about it and tell you that it only took them 5 minutes to come up with it, but it only took you 5 minutes because you just copied. You copied it. Stop. Be above the line. Come on. So, you know, and then it went back to, hey, why don't we get back into reptiles, but do things that we want to do that we really enjoy. Now it's a hobby. Now it's not something I'll be the first one to admit. I've made so many mistakes in my reptile history that if I can help one person, when somebody comes and says, oh, I'm going to dump these animals because they're not going to do anything. No, stop. Sleep on that for a week and think about it, because I did that. I can't even tell you how many times. I'm going to get into this. And then, the price dropped out really bad. I'm just going to get rid of it all. Oh, this stuff starts to produce. Who wants to do that? Just get rid of it. You know, let's trade it for this because this is going to be cooler. You take that wrong turn, because I didn't really have a reptile mentor. You know, the people that I knew that were into reptiles were very private. They didn't want to talk about sales. You know, Stefan was a good friend of mine, but he would never talk about what he sold animals for, how many he sold, because he was always afraid that he was going to create competition. And that's inevitably, that's what we all do. You know, if you produce a clutch of ball pythons, chances are you're going to sell those animals to somebody that wants to breed them in the future. So you're creating competition. So evolve. You know, the 3D prints were something that kind of just grew on us, and I love it. I geek out about that stuff. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be doing these shows. No way. I'm set to do 35 shows this year. I did 40 last year. You know, that's a huge commitment. But at the end of the day, we're out there trying to make the industry better. And from the business aspect, you have to change with the market and be able to. And sometimes that requires you seeing into the future, you know?
Yeah.
And that ain't easy, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, you make a guess. I mean, you can see right behind me, this T-shirt's, I'll turn this way. It says "Bananas for You." So that's one of the designs that we came up with that we're actually pressing at the shows. We do direct to film T-shirt printing now. You know, that was another addition to, hey, what can we do to build our brand and get bigger and do something different for the community, as opposed to breeding another animal and putting another animal out there right now, because there is a big influx. So what can we do? And that's when we said, hey, let's get into doing T-shirts and, you know, and merch. So.
And by the way, shameless plug, because I totally forgot to say it at the beginning, which I say it every time. Mm-hmm. I have Meteoric Serpents T-shirts available, and they're from the man next to me. Next to me. Paul. Yeah, you there. Paul makes my shirts, and they are fantastic. So let me just say, one, the link to Paul's Instagram is in the description of today's video. If you are interested in getting T-shirts made, you know, with your logo, reptile T-shirts, make sure you hit Paul up, because he's a great resource. The T-shirts I have are fantastic, and I can't wait to get them in more people's hands. So, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, how's like the T-shirt thing been for you so far? Because it's a relatively newer thing. I know I was one of the first people to kind of hop on it, but
So we purchased a printer, and it about killed me, like just mentally. It was the worst experience of my whole life. And Joe knows. There's a few guys in the group that know. Man, I can't even tell you how bad that was. There's not even words for it. So as this journey goes with everything, and it went this way with 3D printers too, because let's face fact, most of your 3D printers are from China. This printer that I had was from China. So tech support, that the company that was buying them from China and reselling them in the US, those guys had no idea what they were doing. You would email them at 9 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, the printer did this. Okay, hold on, we'll get right back to you. And 2 days later, they would say, okay, we just talked to somebody. They said, do this, this, and this. Okay, well, that didn't work. Okay, 2 days later, okay, try this, this, and this. Because they were contacting China, and obviously it's not an immediate response. So I happened to get online one day, and I was on Alibaba, and I emailed about a printer. And the woman that messaged me back said, hey, can I have your number? Let's chat through WhatsApp. So we went through WhatsApp, and she's like, oh, you're in Daytona. And I'm like, how the hell did you know where I was? Like, she must have Googled it. And I'm not in Daytona, but that's I have a Daytona number.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I'm just outside of Orlando. And she's like, oh, we have a sales office in Orlando. The owner of the company is there. And I'm like, what are the odds? I'm like, this has got to be it's got to be a scam. I mean, what would the odds be of me just messaging this person? So she gave me this individual's phone number, and I contacted Rick, and I went in and me and Anna went in, my wife, and we looked at the printers, and man, hook, line, and sinker, he's got me sold. I've got a $20,000 printer sitting right on the other side of me over here that I went from being able to do 5 shirts an hour to 60 plus. So it was a huge jump, and it well worth it. And now if I have a problem, I send a text, and Rick is in my computer most times before I can even say, hey, I need your help. And he jumps in, does what he's got to do, and everything is back to normal again. So, but again, this is going to Pierce Motorsports and Reptiles. Your comment there of building and taking your ideas and going to the next. You always want to go to the next thing. There's no shame in having 4 tables of reptiles. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you had 3 tables of reptiles and 1 table of merch, eye-catching stuff, then what's the harm in that? And what if you bring your collection down to a manageable size, but what if you bring your collection down to a manageable size and you have 2 tables of merch and maybe equipment, or, maybe you're doing some bioactive stuff, or if you have colubrids, you have some nice setups for, a complete setup for a colubrid that, somebody comes up and buys a snake, and now they can just get all the stuff from you. And I can't say enough the people that I've met in this industry and the things that I've learned in the last few years. And there's very few times that you can remember a moment that is so meaningful that it sticks with you. And I remember meeting Emilio at the Orlando, was on iDrive in the hotel. It was so many people that didn't speak any English because they're all tourists. They're all tourists. People were like, oh, we can't buy a reptile. We're going back to Europe. I'm like, what? And listen, it's a great idea. It was a nice venue, but you're pulling in, you have signs all up and down iDrive, and it's all tourists. It's all people that are going back home that they're not going to buy a reptile. Chances are they're not. So, but 3D prints, I did very well. So, but I met Emilio there, and I remember talking to him, and man, just the excitement and passion and everything that was there was a turning point for me. And then add in working with Brian from Guardians of the Gecko and his branding experience, and being able to follow him on the journey and the design work that I did for him on the bowls and the ledges for geckos, and just learning about business and what we do in this industry primarily. Because 9 years ago, when we moved here, the first Repticon reptile show we went to, I remember Brian's banner. My daughter had a t-shirt from him, because when we walked in, that's the first thing you saw all the way across the building was his big banner. And it was like, wow, that guy really cares because he's actually doing something that's meaningful. He's taking the extra time to put tablecloths and banners and nice lighting and having merch and having
the
equipment.
the big monitors there, like that is arguably, I have to give him props on that. It's a fantastic setup between everything, between even the geckos, and then you have. When I say monitors for the audience, I'm meaning like TV monitors that have screens, like just doing a slideshow of like pictures and stuff. Like, it's very, very cool. And yes, like you're saying, they've done an amazing job to brand themselves like that.
If you take a look and listen, me and Emilio, everybody knows we've been together. We watch, and I can tell you just from seeing other vendors and people set up and tear down and how they carry themselves, the people that are serious. And we have a small tight group of us, I think, and you guys are all on the right path. And I think it's important for us to be able to, as a community, to be able to rely on one another. And damn, like, I hate when I hear people bad mouthing somebody because they don't like, this person. Like, there's a guy at the shows that sells wild caught stuff, and he puts chameleons in these little boxes, and but on what are we going to do? That's a Repticon thing. Repticon has to police that, but they're listening to people talk about a lack of sales and a lack of communication between customers is their fault. It's not the customer. It's not the show. It's the person behind the table. And I can tell you that there's been plenty of times where Emilio will slap me on the shoulder and be like, hey, dude, stand up, walk around, smile. Like, you look pissed. And I've had other people tell me that too. They're like, hey, you look like you're just in a bad frame of mind. And it's like, no, you know what? You're right. I got to get up. I got to move around. You got to talk to people. Somebody looks at our tables. Hey, how you doing? You wave. You can't sit behind your table on your phone and expect people to walk up and buy something from you. It doesn't work that way now.
No.
I personally think, and this is a conversation I've had with other vendors and other people, is I personally think that 10 years ago, the internet wasn't what it was today. And Joe, why would you drive 2.5 hours, say it's you and your girlfriend, pay $30 to get into a show, to walk around and potentially not find what you're looking for, when you could sit on your couch and jump on the internet and find it and click the buy button? And if you did that on Saturday, you'd have the animal on Tuesday and get exactly what you wanted. So I think the internet has a lot to do with slower shows. And
definitely,
I think that if you're going to brand yourself and stand out amongst the internet, you have a lot of work to do. That's it.
Yeah.
And we see it. I mean, damn, this year I've had my 2 best shows ever. And I can tell everybody in here that I have never done over $2,000 in 3.5 years. And between the 2 shows, the last couple shows, I've had 2 shows where I've done almost 3,000 and another show where I've done almost 2,400. And guys, that's all 3D prints.
Yeah.
And, Emilio's probably going to text me or call me later and tell me I shouldn't have said that. But at the end of the day, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not here to, if somebody else in here wants to sell 3D prints, go ahead. That's up to you. But at the end of the day, there's money there, you guys. Anybody that wants to do this and wants to vend, you just got to do it right. That's all.
Yeah.
You just can't throw a shower curtain on your table or a bed sheet on your table and roll with it. You see that?
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a fact, it's Clover,
Yeah.
these guys, we talked, me, you, and him all vended Orlando, and
Yep.
we talked about this. This is a big deal for those. Jesus. for those that are out there and doing this, like, I'm not saying go drop $100,000 to buy yourself some, huge, convention setup with,
Right.
big lighting and all this other stuff. What I'm saying is start slow, get yourself nice tablecloths. They're $18.
Yeah.
And it ain't gonna break the bank.
Yep.
If you can't get banners, you should know enough people. Ask. Joe, you have nice banners. Emilio's got nice banners. I have stuff. Brock has stuff. Brock had to order the extra large stuff because he's a big dude. You can't put an 8-foot banner behind his table. He's taller than the damn banner.
Yeah.
So, is this 12 feet tall?
Yeah.
So, but we all know one another. And for those that are just getting into this, ask. Like, I would rather go to a reptile show and see people that I've talked to doing it right and know that sooner or later the shit balls are going to be gone because the rest of us are going to push them out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 100%.
So,
yeah, and that's something I talked about on a semi-recent video I did. It's just like, vending a show and what that experience is like, and also being that educational person. Like, and you've seen me, and
Yep.
by the way, thank you, because you've given me the most introduction to this vending by lending me one of your tables or at a few shows. But there have been multiple shows where I didn't sell shit, and that's okay. I'm fine with that. But guess what I did do is I talked to people, I educated people. I'm showing my snakes off to people, and even that, just like getting a cool interaction with someone and them commenting on my animals means the world to me still.
Yep.
So, people got to look at it that way, and you're not going to get those interactions if you sit behind the table on your phone.
I don't know how many times, and I don't know how he does it, but I don't know how many times I get a text message from Emilio. Hey, I sold a snake today from somebody in Jacksonville 6 months ago. Somebody talks to him in Jacksonville, and he takes the time to talk to him, and he's passionate about it. And Joe, you're the same way. I've heard you talk to people. That stuff will pay dividends because down the road, you're going to be at a show, and they're going to remember that. And they're going to go, hey, you know what? I'll pay extra money because that guy took the time to talk to me, even though he knew I wasn't going to buy anything. And yes, for those of you that are in here that just go to reptile shows, or for those of you that watch this that just go, don't hesitate to ask to see something. Does it get aggravating sometimes? Yes. It gets aggravating from time to time when you're so busy and people just want to hold a snake. But you know what? That's what we're there for. So just remind us. That's all. Just remind us. Hey, I'm here. I want to hold a snake. Come on over. I mean, and that
also,
Go ahead.
I would say also for spectators, don't get offended if that vendor doesn't want you to hold the most expensive snake on the table if you're not actually interested in buying it. Like, sorry, like I'm not gonna put, a $700 snake in someone's hand if they just want to hold the snake. I'm gonna put the $100 snake in their hand, and that's just kind of And I don't want to make it seem negative in that way, but that's kind of just the way it is, obviously.
Well, so here's the thing, Joe. Look at it from this perspective. We don't want to stress the animals out more than we have to. And one thing that our friend Matt from Sasselbeck Reptiles, he breeds leopard geckos. He gets asked all the time, hey, can I hold a leopard gecko? No, I'm sorry, I don't take him out. It stresses him out. And he doesn't.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, does it matter if I've got 20 ball pythons and I know that I've got one snake that I could take that snake out and throw it up in the air 50 feet and it's going to land on the ground, and I could throw a rat in front of it. It's going to eat the rat. It's just bulletproof. It loves to be handled. That's the snake I'm going to give to you. It doesn't matter if it's a purple snake or a green snake. Does that matter? If it's a Mojave, then it doesn't matter what it is. Like, it just hold the snake and enjoy it. Like, if you hold the snake and you're like, hey, I want that pied, I don't want this pastel. Get where I went there? So, but
Where's
okay.
Chad?
Yeah, where is Chad? Where's Brock?
Yeah, I don't know.
Pastel pied. So if you go, thank you, Bosa. I love it. If you go and you hold that pastel and you're like, okay, I want that pied. I'm going to buy that. Okay, now you can hold it. Here you go. Take it. But at the end of the day, that snake might not be. It's just more stressful for it, you know. And
Right.
At the end of the day, I think when we are doing multiple shows, and I think there's a way to stretch that out so that you're doing it the right way. But I agree with everything you said. And at the end of the day, when you're standing in front of people and you're talking about, you know, the passion of you know, your rat snakes. And I've seen you with one of the big ones when I think it was Pembroke Pines.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Yeah. And people are holding it and they're like shocked, you know, that it's so cool. That's, like I said, man, I love making money. Don't get it twisted. I'm not doing these shows for my health, guys. I'm doing these shows to make money. I'm not doing this for my health. If anybody tells you they're doing it because they love their animals, sure, they love their animals, but we love money too, right? Why? I'm just be honest. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't sugarcoat it. I mean, we're there to make money, sure, but of course we love our animals. If we didn't, we wouldn't spend all the time we do working a full-time job and then working another full-time job. Because let's face fact, if you have 20 or 10 or more animals, that's like another full-time job at times. So, you know, we're there to make money, but we're there to have fun, and we're there to make relationships and keep in touch with people, and being able to see somebody buy their first snake, or, you know, somebody hold their first snake, or, you know, being able to, Aiden does this all the time. He costs me a ton of money, but he'll give a 3D print away to a little kid that's maybe upset that their parents told him no animals. So
yeah,
you know, that's the best part of doing these shows. That's the most fun, you know? So the money is just a bonus. Like, that's honestly the bonus, you know? So, I mean, I love saying that. I love telling people, like, I'm there to make money. Like, of course I love the animals. Why the hell would I love my wife? If I didn't love my wife, I wouldn't be married, right?
Yep.
But at the end of the day, like, that's part of the biggest thing to me, more than anything, is, you know, let's just work as a consorted group, because as a group we are much stronger than small groups, and you know, just small cliques. And you know, one thing I always say is all the gun guys, you know, when there's a law being placed, it doesn't matter how much these guys hate each other. They come together, they fight, they win, they go back to their corners, and that's it. You know, you don't have to love me, but we have a common interest here, and we don't want to lose that. We have a common interest in the reptile world. We don't want to lose that. You know,
right?
Bosa, love and marriage. That's a fact. So, you know, I mean, I love what we do, and working with everybody, and I love the business side of it, and we're only going to continue to grow, you know, and as a group. And I tell everybody, if anybody's ever got a question, or I have people ask me 3D print questions, you know, whatever, shoot, message me. Don't ever hesitate. I'm never going to ignore you. That'll never happen. Because I'm not wired that way.
Yeah. Before we circle back to reptiles, where do you see the scope of for real 3D and design being taken to? Do you have aspirations and goals to go a little bit higher than what you're currently doing, or maybe it's just actual production numbers or whatnot?
You know,
maybe details you don't want to share. And
no, that's fine. I don't care about that. We've wanted to do online sales, but we're just starting to kind of trend into that, if that makes sense. Okay. I would like to retire my wife so that she can work here from home and help with t-shirts and the 3D print stuff. I would like to do more functional 3D printing. I don't ever really see myself leaving my job. I like my job. I mean, there's days that it drives me nuts, but for the most part, I do like it. It gives me, not only a great paycheck, but I have benefits, and I've been there now for 5 years, so I'm kind of tied into that. But I would really like to see more growth on the online sales side, and being able to go that route and more functional stuff. I mean, I'm not by no means am I an engineer, but I can have some fun and come up with some cool designs. And we did that for Brian, and it's been, banging. And he's such a great marketing person. Man, if anybody ever gets a chance to stop at a show and talk to him, stop and talk to him. He's epic.
Yeah.
So, but as far as growth goes, I think it's more of a numbers game. And one thing we are going to look at, and I wasn't going to, and Brian kind of talked me back into it, was looking at the multicolor 3D printers and maybe doing some custom stuff where maybe we can take a picture of a ball python or a colubrid or a cobra and actually put that pattern into it with a multicolor printer. Somebody just did a piebald ball python not too long ago. It was a smaller one, but man, it looked cool. It looked just like a pied. So it had the nice brown, dark brown, white, it was really cool. So, but a print like that takes a long time, and there's a lot of wasted material. And, it's something that would be more of a custom print. So, but I think that's where we're kind of going, as far as doing stuff like that. We've got some functional cage stuff that we're going to start working on that we'll roll out for screen caging for chameleons and for anoles and stuff that stay in a bigger screen cage.
Nice.
So, some cool stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Awesome. And obviously, as the title implies, I have to circle back to colubrids because it wouldn't be the Colubrid Corruption Podcast without it. I'm not going to give myself credit, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of credit for getting you corrupted.
You should.
Yeah.
Because you lit the fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
You did, buddy.
No, that's
awesome. All you.
Hell yeah.
So our goal is to have a mix of species, not to have I love bull snakes, and I could have 50 of them and I would be happy because they are fucking cool.
Yeah.
We want to have a couple pairs that are really cool, stuff that we like working with. I didn't realize how much the mosaic kings, I really, really like those. So we actually have ultra mosaic male, an albino female mosaic, and a hypo female mosaic that we just got.
Nice.
And then Aiden actually got me a pair of Russian rats.
Yeah. I saw the pictures of those.
Yeah.
Those are cool.
Yes. And then he picked up a black pine snake. So, which was awesome. I mean, I had one years ago. The rules are a little stringent on them. You can't really sell them across state lines, but I don't really know if that's what he's going to do with it or if it's just going to be kept as like a big pet, like a big, because they get huge, man. The one I got in New York, the guy I got it from, he brought the mother, and dude, she was all of the girth of a 3,000 gram ball python, but 6.5, 7 feet long, huge, jet black, like badass animal. So, we like yellowtail crebos. There's so many freaking cool colubrids, man. It's so hard to put your finger on it.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. Is like, what are you maybe looking towards? Any other cool or maybe even obscure species that you're kind of like you're eyeing up at least?
So my wish list, like bucket list animal, I would really like to get into Pitai's carnivore.
Okay.
I really, from watching all of DM Exotics videos and seeing how, man, those animals are just amazing. But I think like stuff that's really on the list, yellowtail crebos, blacktail crebos, we really like. We know somebody up in Gainesville that actually produces them, so if we're going to get them, we're going to get them from them.
Nice.
I like the king rats. I like the king rats. I really, 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 really like those. I kind of like the fact that like real flighty and bitey, but they can't kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to suck, but they can't kill you. So,
Right.
And I think we're going to go into more boas down the road too. But as far as colubrids go, don't get me wrong. I love all animals. I even love rats. God, I can't believe I just said that out loud. That's weird because they stink. But I like corn snakes, but really the only ones that do anything for me are the extreme reverse okatees and then the okatees. Like just your plain Jane, really nice okatee with that really, really black, dark band, the dark circles. I love those animals. And like I said, I like the bull snakes. It's so hard to pick a bull snake though, because all of them look cool as hell. It's like a rat snake. There's so many cool rat snakes. It's like, how do you pick? One of the things we want to be able to do is to have an eclectic collection of animals to have at the table, but also just to have things that we really like, just to have some cool stuff that we like. So, I mean, I love the big colubrids, just a big giant, man, fast moving, you're dodging a dart. So
right. Yeah. No, I can imagine, given your collection, that's kind of the stuff you'd want to go for.
Yeah.
Also, a change of pace from ball pythons.
Wait, did you say ball python or pet rock? Sorry, Emilio.
You get Emilio mad.
Oh yeah, I know. No, definitely not a pet rock. Listen, I love my ball pythons too. I mean, we keep stuff that we really, really like, and they don't move around a lot. Neither do tortoises. I mean, and realistically, my bearded dragons do, but they kind of chill on a branch under the light, and then they run to the other end and
they
cool
sit
off.
there all day.
Yeah, I was just saying they don't do much either. It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say that if you walk in that room and start doing stuff, the bush viper gets really, really active, like all over the cage active. The rattlesnakes will get active. When I was at Cody's, the mambas would get active. I will say that venomous snakes are more active, and I'm sure, I mean, all my colubrids except for the corn snake are in boxes. They're in a rack, so I don't get to see them as much. And maybe you can allude to this. When you're working in the room, do they get more like curious, like what's going on?
Sometimes, so a lot of my colubrids are in the kind of like opaque tub.
Okay.
So I don't think they have a clear view out, but they could definitely see light. Some of them are definitely aware. A lot of them sit under their hides. Like a lot of them literally all day, I'll find them under their hides. But some animals are definitely more inquisitive than others.
Okay.
Yeah. And also that's within the couple species I work with. And,
So the corn snake, the okatee, is in a tank, like a glass tank. Ooh, bad things. And it'll come out, and check things out too. But it's a pig. Like that snake is insane. It has such a crazy feed response. It's so cool.
Yep.
And I can say that like even the big carpet pythons, they're just like they don't move unless you're opening. If I open that door, they're like freight trains. But they just kind of chill and they don't really move around a lot. They don't really do much. And even the boas now. Emilio was over last week. We ultrasounded. It looks like we have a gravid female boa, and I'm
awesome.
Pretty sure. This is our first time working boas. I'm pretty sure she may have just ovulated.
Okay.
I don't know. So I spoke with good friends of ours, and they told me to put the male back in. And if the male is running the cage and wanting to get away, then take them out. They're done. But I can say that the last time they were in, they were kind of not hooked up or doing anything crazy. So, we'll see what happens over the next couple weeks, and if she sheds out in a short period of time, then it'll be 105-ish days, and maybe we'll have some baby boas. It'll be the first time. It'll be super exciting. So
awesome.
Yeah. She's we've had that snake for I think six or 7 years now.
Nice.
But she eats every 3 weeks. We don't overfeed, appropriate size. But she has always been a garbage disposal, and she's refused the last 2 meals. So,
Oh, there you go.
yep.
Yeah.
So that could be, but I've had people tell me that with boas, they continue to eat too. So
Interesting.
yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, Bosa, definitely, man. I'm so excited. Like, I don't even know if we'll sell any of them. I don't know. It's our first. It'll be our first litter. So
Yeah.
it'll be really, really cool. So I'm super excited.
Yeah.
So, but as far as colubrids go, there will definitely be more this year.
Awesome.
So, but nothing insane. I mean, I definitely, like I said, I definitely like the yellow and blacktails. The Patias are like dream.
Can you even get captive bred Patai? I don't think so.
No, you're gonna get imports, and you're gonna have to work that project. I've seen some big imports that look pretty good for right around $1,000. I mean, I don't know what they normally go for, but I'd be very, very choosy who I got stuff from.
Right, I'm sure.
So, and we're actually picking up. Aiden just picked up another pair of IJs or popwind carpets.
Oh, okay.
Carpet guys, 2019 pair from Bratz. So.
Oh, okay. You know what's funny is I was just talking to Ryan O'Neill today.
Okay.
Royal Addiction, because he has the carpets, and he said, I told him that Jake had those, and I was like, oh, he said he might want the female, and Jake told him they were sold to a friend. He didn't pay him yet, but they were sold to a friend. So funny how that comes full circle. So I guess it's Aiden.
Yep, we're picking them up on Friday. We're going to leave Orlando and drive up to Jacksonville. He's coming down here to do some herping.
Oh yes,
so we're gonna go up to Jacksonville and pick him up from Extreme. He's gonna drop him off there. So
awesome.
But yes, super excited to have another great pair. One of the animals is from Billy Hunt, and the other one is directly from Jake. So it's from an imported pair. So nice to have the lineage on a pure pair, and we definitely grow the carpet collection. That's Aiden's passion, and want to make that get it a little bigger. But he really likes as Jacob would call them, the papayans. Sorry, Jacob.
Yeah. All right. Cool, man. So as we kind of wrap up, I typically ask a colubrid related question, but I'm actually going to flip that for you, and yours is more show oriented. So what is your kind of elevator pitch for that person who doesn't know, for that newer breeder who doesn't know whether they should get into vending reptile shows? Like, what's your kind of message?
My message to you is do it. Don't think about it. Don't overthink about it. Do it. Go to a couple shows. Talk to the people that you know that are there vending. How did they set up? Where did they get their tablecloths? And listen, 99% of the time, I don't put a banner up. I have tablecloths. We have, our merch. We have, I shouldn't say that. Emilio's going to kill me. I don't print my own shirts. That's my fault. That's all on me. But go and talk to other vendors that talk to people that have vended a show. The more you say, I'll do the next one. You're never going to do it. Jump in. It's a tablecloth. It's one table. You buy an $18 tablecloth, put your animals on the table. Make sure they're secure. Make sure they're clean. Make sure they look good. Get out there. Be happy. Smile. You don't have to have T-shirts and hats and all that stuff. You don't have to have it. Dress nice. Aiden's bummed out right now because we're switching over to all polos. So we're going to go to look the part. There's going to be some big changes coming this year, and that's going to be where it's going to start. It's time to kind of dress us up a little bit and be more professional. And for those of you that do or have been to other conventions, when you go to some of these conventions, people look professional. They act professional,
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people that are going to watch us and say, oh my God, Paul's like a 4-year-old, 100%. But you still got to be somewhat professional. So, but that's where I would go. Just do it. And man, if you have any questions, get a hold of one of us. Just ask.
Yep.
I have links to everything. You need tablecloths. You need a backdrop. You need anything you need. Brian from Guardians of the Gecko, his dad he's a printer, so he has access to getting banners and stuff done at a fantastic price. And man, that I got to help Brian take that banner down at Jacksonville. Dude, that thing is pretty slick. You like pop these little tabs. Yeah, you pop these little tabs and it goes down into a little tiny thing, goes into a bag, and it's gone. Yeah, it's kind of cool. That's kind of
and it's
cool.
a big one. It's a big one too. It's a big banner.
His is 10 by 8.
Yeah,
it's huge. So, but price wise, the pricing is great. The quality is even better, and there's multiple things. So go talk to Brian at Guardians. Man, there's enough of us out there that would love to talk to other people about vending, because like I said, if we're going to get rid of the dirt bags, the best way to do it is to bring good people in.
Yep.
And everybody 100%. Else will be gone. And I know there's people out there that are going to go, wait a minute, who's a dirt bag? Well, if you have to ask that question, there's a problem. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, one, thank you so much for coming out. Two, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, the link to Paul's Instagram is down in the description. So if you want to go give Paul a follow, go do that. In addition, if you're looking to get t-shirts made from Paul, you want to get some, company t-shirts, I have my Meteoric Serpents t-shirts. They're made by him. Hit him up. And honestly, in my opinion, they're priced very well, very competitively, especially for like front and back printing. So very appreciative of Paul and his friendship with all that. We need to discuss that podcast t-shirt. So you guys, whoever's watching to this point, stay tuned, because that's hopefully going to come soon. I got to get like an actual design over to Paul, and we can work on that. But
we want this business to obviously make us money, but we wanted to do a lot of this for the reptile community. And we knew, based on trying to get our own shirts, how expensive and a pain in the ass it was. So at the end of the day, just so everybody knows, I have no minimums. You want one shirt, you can get one shirt. You want 100 shirts, you can get 100 shirts. If you have a family vacation you're going on and you want 5 shirts that say whatever, family vacation 2024, let me know. I love doing that stuff, and I'm not going to beat you up for it. So, you're always going to get a better deal.
Hell yeah. All right, man. Well, there was at least 20 to 30 people here. What do you have to say to what do you have to say to the live chat and anyone who's watching the replay?
Man, I appreciate all you guys. Thank you very much. Keep doing what you're doing. Ask questions, man. Ask. Don't assume that somebody's not going to give you an answer. And if you have a reptile business, just don't be a dick. Somebody asks you a question, answer it. It's not there's no secrets anymore. The internet has eliminated secrets. There's no magic potions, right?
Yeah.
Joe, seriously, you're a young guy. You get on the internet and find anything you want.
Pretty much.
It's all out there. So there are certain things that we're not going to give up, but for the most part, if there's stuff that you want, man, just ask, so, and enjoy it, and make sure you like, subscribe, follow this guy. And
thank you.
If you're not a US Arc Florida or US Arc member, get on that shit, or we're going to spend
that as well. I need to start saying that at the beginning of the episodes. I'm a member of both, and if you're watching to this point, you should absolutely be. It is extremely affordable to be the cheapest tier of a US Arc and US Arc Florida member. If you can afford that too, if you can afford to feed your animals every week, you can afford a US Arc membership. That's what I have to say every time. Yeah,
it's important. People
and
don't realize.
I do the silver business membership. I don't play around. I do my part. So make sure you are doing your part as well. So, everyone, we can keep our rights as reptile keepers, because that's obviously important.
Yep. Absolutely. So thanks, guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. I'm going to throw you backstage, run the outro, just hang out for a couple minutes. We'll talk after.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, guys, what a fantastic episode with Paul. I really appreciate him coming on, especially kind of last minute. We planned this out yesterday, so thank you to him. Really cool conversation, guys. You don't get to hear the perspective of a venomous keeper, in such a professional light all the time. You kind of see this, I'll call it like social media noise a lot, and you kind of just see all this stuff. But I think it's really cool to hear from people like Paul, especially all the experience he's been through and all that. Guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit the like on the episode. Slack it on the likes a little bit. We could get them up there every episode. Just hit that. As soon as you join, just hit the like button and you're done. No more responsibility. The only other responsibility is hitting that subscribe button, because we are getting closer to 1,000 subscribers day by day. Thank you guys so much for supporting. It means the world to me. If you want to stay in tune more, make sure you follow all of our social medias. Instagram is the best place to reach me. I post everything there, all my animals, all the reminders about the show and whatnot. Morph Market, there are some animals available. Like I mentioned throughout this episode, I do have Meteoric Serpents t-shirts made by Paul available. So you get to see, if you want to purchase one from me, you get to kind of see the quality of his work. So it's kind of a test run if you're interested in getting some shirts from him. Other than that, I always endorse Blake's Exotic Feeders. If you're looking to diversify your diet, get some quail for your colubrids or any other species. Last but not least, first link in the description is the Meteoric Serpents Patreon. If you are interested in joining, getting Colubrid Corrupted, there's multiple tiers there. Let's build this community. It also supports me, helps me build this podcast and make it, even bigger and better for you guys week by week. Yeah, but that's it for today, guys. Again, this was episode 19 of the Colubrid Corruption Podcast with guest Paul McIntyre from For Real 3D and Design and For Real Reptiles. Thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you next week. Peace.